You'll be good.
There are a few things that almost all humans share. One of those is a sense of wonder and fascination with the cosmos. Unless you've spent your entire life living in a big city, you more than likely have memories of nights spent laying outside gazing up at the stars. I know I can certainly remember countless nights spent staring up at the night sky, gaping in awe at the sheer immensity of it all. I always found myself lost in thought as I gazed into the cosmos, and I inevitably found myself asking the same questions. Where did we come from, and where are we going? I was eager to explore the world around me, but it felt like society wanted otherwise. I was constantly told that the only way for me to succeed was by becoming a hip-hop artist or a professional athlete. I heard it from coaches, peers, and the media, and it seemed like society was trying to define my limits at every opportunity. It caused me to take my eyes off the stars and question if there was even a place for me on this pale blue dot. It wasn't until I discovered my idol that I realized I could actually unlock my full potential. Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson had a tremendous impact on my life because representation is a powerful thing, and he wielded that power immensely. His voice, combined with his life story, his passion, his dedication, and just his very essence, inspired me to reject society's expectations and chase after my dreams. So with my sights reset on the cosmos, I applied to colleges full of stress, anxiety, and a desperate hope that I would just get accepted somewhere. The first response I received was rejection, and I was crushed and defeated, and the only thing I could do was sit and wait for my next letter to come. After what seemed like an eternity, it finally arrived, and with hands shaking, I opened that letter, just preparing myself for yet more heartbreak. Through eyes half covered, I read the first word on the top of the page, "Congratulations," and I immediately freaked out. It was the greatest moment of my young life, and I just wanted to share my accomplishment with the world. But it wasn't long before I realized that the world wasn't as excited as I was. At school, classmate after classmate spat on my success, insisting that I was only accepted because I was poor and black. They were certain that without affirmative action, I never would have been accepted anywhere. And so with their cries of reverse racism echoing through my head, I left for college just hoping to find a place for myself, and desperately hoping that they were wrong. When I arrived here, I quickly realized that myself and my classmates came from very different backgrounds, and I routinely found myself as the only underrepresented person of color in my classrooms. The weight of feeling like I didn't belong threatened to suffocate me. And if it wasn't for spaces like the Ethnic Cultural Center and the Louis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation, I never would have felt at home on this campus. I'm honestly not sure I'd still be here, let alone standing in front of you here today, if it wasn't for the Office of Minority Affairs and Diversity. But even with the support I received, I felt like I was one mistake away from being found out as an imposter. So I realized that the only way to combat my imposter syndrome was by getting as much experience as possible. So I scoured the campus, desperately searching for any opportunity that might appeal to me. And I eventually stumbled my way onto a NASA-funded team developing HuskySat, the first student-built CubeSat in Washington State. It was the coolest thing I'd ever done, except for one small detail. I had no idea what a CubeSat even was. I later learned that HuskySat is made up of 3 units, each of which is a roughly 4-inch cube, and its primary purpose is to test a propulsion system developed here at the University of Washington. Without any prior experience, I became responsible for designing mission scenarios and analyzing our likelihood of success. I had no idea what I was doing, but I loved every second of trying to figure it out. I later learned that nothing would make me happier than dedicating my life to space exploration, because not only is studying space science inherently fascinating, but we've been studying the night sky for thousands of years, and it's driven us towards this goal. Practically every culture in history has been fascinated by the night sky, and we would create movement stories based on their movements, and we eventually charted them to create the first calendars. And now we've come a long way since our humble beginnings, and we're finally developing the technologies to set sail on the cosmic ocean. But there's still plenty of work to be done before we can send humans to another planet. And while SpaceX's Big Falcon rocket is a huge piece of the interplanetary puzzle, there are other equally important but seemingly overlooked aspects of space exploration just waiting to be developed. Like, how exactly are we going to survive once we get there? As it stands now, our astronauts and space settlers would be tied to the Earth by an invisible umbilical cord millions of miles long. But if we could harness the resources on the Moon, Mars, or even asteroids, then we'd be one giant leap closer to breaking free of Earth's gravity well. So I realized that space mining is an important and challenging part of space exploration, and it drew me in. And I realized that that was the field that I wanted to use to make my mark on this world. So I took a shot and I applied for an 8-month internship at Planetary Resources Incorporated, the asteroid mining company based in Redmond, Washington. Somehow, out of over 1,000 applicants, I was accepted to assist in the development of their mission to search for resources on near-Earth asteroids. I thought I'd found my dream job, but I didn't realize just how lonely it would be. As the second Black employee in the company's 8-year history, I couldn't help but feel horribly out of place. In meetings, I would raise important points and questions that would be ignored until one of my white colleagues brought up that same issue. Coworkers also felt the need to talk to me about the Negro problem, and I was even told that 2 young boys killed in cold blood, Tamir Rice and Trayvon Martin, got what they deserved. It was overwhelming, and even in an office surrounded by over 50 other employees, I felt utterly secluded. More than once, I found myself in the bathroom with tears of frustration and isolation streaming down my face. I wanted to quit more times than I could count, but this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. There was no way I could give up. So I decided then and there that no individual and no company would keep me from becoming my ancestors' wildest dream. So I worked hard, but once my contract was up, I left and I didn't look back. And then in January, I decided to use my technical experience as inspiration for my own research, and I started working with researchers in the Applied Physics Lab to investigate different methods of extracting water from extraterrestrial bodies. In grad school, I hope to expand on this work to develop a prototype water extraction system for use on the moon or near-Earth asteroids. So even though my internship had its low points, it was definitely worth it. It also afforded me the time and space to take a step back from school and just breathe. During my time as a UW student, I've been running around this campus desperately trying to prove my worth. And when I'm not dashing from class to meeting to class, I have my head buried between the covers of one textbook or another. It's been exhausting, and at the end of most quarters, I'm over-caffeinated, dragging my legs behind me, and horribly burnt out. So my internship gave me the time and space to take a step back from all of that, lift my head up a little bit, and reflect on my journey so far. I found myself asking 2 questions. How did I get here? And more importantly, where is everyone else? Space exploration and settlement is supposed to represent the future of humanity, but this future doesn't seem to represent humanity at all. The lack of diversity stares me in the face when I'm watching a live feed of one of SpaceX's launches, and the video cuts to a scene like this one. I feel like I'm playing a game of Where's Waldo, frantically searching through the sea of white men, just hoping to find a person of color or even a white woman. The lack of diversity is staggering and it affects the entire field and STEM as a whole. But this doesn't make any sense, because we're always told that all it takes to succeed in America, especially in STEM, is curiosity, passion, hard work, and dedication. But if that's true, where is everyone else? What's keeping the rest of us from achieving the American dream? Are people of color not curious? Are we not passionate? Are we not hard workers? Are we not dedicated to simply making our families proud? Of course, we're all those things and more, which means there's something actively keeping us from achieving our dreams. The systems that we're coming up against are designed to perpetuate themselves, and they use the media as an agent for ongoing oppression. It's a tool wielded to create negative images and stereotypes, and these in turn help to separate humanity into a racial hierarchy. The exact nature of this hierarchy is murky at best, but one thing is clear. Whites are at the top, and people of color, particularly Black and Native people, are at the bottom. This hierarchy has been the basis for systemic racial oppression for centuries, and it has aided in the creation of environments in which people of color are likely to fail. Each of us has to constantly struggle against the odds in order to succeed, and only some of us are fortunate enough to beat them. Most don't. But this doesn't have to continue to be the narrative, and in fact, it shouldn't be. In order to change the narrative, each of us must be committed to fighting for societal change at a local, state, and national level. The sheer scale of this problem makes it seem impossible to fight against, but there are tangible steps that we can each take in our own lives to begin building movements for change. If you are white, I implore you to use your privilege to serve the less fortunate and advocate for those people who aren't given a seat at the table. Beyond being advocates and allies, you must learn when and how to take a step back and give up your seat at the table, because no one is better qualified and equipped to speak on matters of oppression than the oppressed themselves. If you're a first-generation college student, if you're LGBTQ, if you're a boy, girl, man, or woman of color, or if you stand at the intersection of multiple of these identities, never be afraid to chase after your dreams. Even though the systems are designed for us to fail, you can succeed. You can beat the odds. But I won't lie to you, it's not easy. But no matter which path we choose, our very existence requires us to fight against and resist these systems each and every day, whether we like it or not. You just need to remember that you have a place on this campus and in this society. But it won't just be handed to you, because we aren't that privileged. We need to continually fight for ourselves and our communities, and eventually you will find your space. And once you have, I urge you to please use it to help those still struggling to find theirs. Thank you.